So this will be a recorded session so that other people who are in different sessions, they can come back and view this later. When you get information about possible credits, that's one of the things you can do is you can come back to this. Okay, we're gonna forget that part. So thank you guys for being here. This is called Give Feedback, Not Grades, and I'm super excited to share some ideas. I'd never want things to come off as like, this is the best way or the only way to teach, but this is something that I've done that I have found to work for me and done some reading and research around. Grab this link. If you are in the slides, there's a link under digital notebook. You're gonna want that to record your thinking. If you can't get that to work, you probably can just write on a blank piece of paper and that will be totally fine. I'll add it to the chat again in a little bit. So just to get to know me, my name's Sierra. I taught for 7 years in the third, fourth range of students and was passionate about just growing and learning more things all the time. Got a master's degree in educational technology. I really like that direction of life and was happy there. And then got involved with the Idaho Coaching Network as a coach. And that's what I've done for the last year. It's been the best, the most amazing year of professional development for myself. And I'm excited to share some of the things I'm passionate about. So today we're going to do a few things. I'm going to try not to go fast paced because I don't love water hydrant, like fire hose down your throat sort of learning styles, but we're going to try to cover some awesome things you can implement in your classroom. One way we're going to do that is consider ways to build a culture of student empowerment in your classrooms using student self-tracking and reflection. We're also going to learn some basic steps for removing grading from your home life hours. This is, again, not like a one way or one thing to solve everything, but it's an option that might work for you, that worked for me. And we're going to explore teacher and peer feedback as a strategy to deepen learning. And then we're going to also reflect on what assignments are important to grade, because that is one of the biggest time sucks in teachers' lives, is where we get stuck in that pit of grading. So before we begin, on a blank piece of paper, or if you have access to that digital notebook, we're just going to do some thinking around my essential questions for today. And they are, how can I honor my students in a way that grows them forward best? And how can I honor myself as a professional educator and human? So I'm going to give you some time to go ahead and you can add this into your digital notebook copy, which I'm going to drop it into the chat again. Or you can just write this on a sticky note anywhere near you. We'll take a few minutes here just to kind of think through these essential questions. They're on slide. I'm still in present mode here. They're on slide 4 if you're working from our slides. Unmute and shout out any questions that you have. Thanks for introducing yourself. I'm going to love perusing these introductions. If you have a moment, you can too. McKenna, I hope we can help answer some of those questions. She says that she's interested in the session because she constantly gets feedback from her administrators that she's grading too much. So she would like to lessen her grading load and shift the lift to the students. Boy, oh boy, we're going to talk about some of that today. So I'm excited. take about 1 or 2 more minutes to think around those questions. If you have something that you would like to share in the chat to share with others, you're more than welcome to. You do not have to. This is kind of a personal starting point. But it's, to me, this year was a really big deal to consider honoring students as well as myself and other educators as human beings with needs and limitations and only a certain amount of capacity. Okay, wrap up your thinking in the next couple of seconds as I introduce the next task. So we're going to be working right off of the slides for the next few slides. So I'm going to drop that into the chat one more time. In case you haven't opened up these slides, I'm not going to screen share for a minute so that you don't get confused which screen to be looking at. So make sure that you click on that link and you get into the direct slides. And then we're going to be on slide 5. What we're going to start with is a poll. So if you scroll to the left or to the right of the screen, you're going to see some X's that are placed there as images. You can click on an X and move it onto the slide. And I want you just to grab one and click and drag to move it onto this chart, this poll line that we have here, to represent the percentage of student work you write or give feedback on. This is a safe space. We don't see your name attached to your X. Once you, actually we do for just a second when you move it, but then we don't know who is saying what. And it's just a chance for us to kind of see who we're here with. Already, this is really exciting that we're not drowning ourselves in too much hard work, although feedback, we can always find ways to improve. This is great. So you write or give feedback on. This is awesome. It looks like mostly so far, the most that I can see, I believe, is in that 11 to 20% range. And then it kind of is similar to the 21, 30%. And then we kind of get less and less as we go up. Awesome. Okay, let's move down to slide 6 now. Click and drag the X to roughly represent what percentage of student work is grades free. You do not give a grade for this. This is just work that students do and you don't put a number or a comment on at all. You as the teacher. They might give feedback in another area, but not from you. Okay, it's looking a little different so far. Drop any questions you have in the chat if you need. I'll do my best to keep track of that, but you can always unmute and yell at me too. Okay, so we're a little bit, we're kind of split where there's some people that are doing quite a bit and have quite a bit of grades free work. And then there's some that don't have any grades free work. Okay, this is great to see. Let's go to slide 7. Click and drag an X to roughly represent how many hours of grading you do at home per week. So whatever your school week is, 4 days, 5 days, if you're a part-time, whatever your work week is, and then how much of grading are you doing at home? This is kind of the place that is most important to me because I'm a mom, I have 4 young kids, and I don't want to be doing work at home unless it's super meaningful. And I know that there is work that teachers do at home that's meaningful, but I don't want to be taking up my family time outside of my working time if I can help it at all. This is great. Most of us are in that 0 to 2 hours range, which is awesome. Then some of us are sliding up into the quite a bit more. And it definitely matters. I know, like grade level you're teaching, content area you're teaching. Sometimes you've got to be doing You've got to be correcting essays or senior papers, and that takes a lot more time. So that is definitely a consideration. Okay. So I'm going to move to slide 8. And this is just kind of how the caveat to introduce is that an active, engaged learner is the goal for all teachers, I believe. But teachers are working harder than ever. Some of us are, especially maybe this year, and it's just not sustainable. So what I have is, I want to be really careful to clarify that this is not the only way or even the best way, but I have some ideas that I've tried that have worked for me, that I've learned and researched from other educators, that there's a possible way to really cut down what you're doing at home and to get most of your feedback / grading done at school. So if we move to slide 9, last question, this is just a personal question for you. I believe there is a way to grade less, especially at home, while giving more feedback that is meaningful and powerful. So you can be honest here. If you don't think that's possible, I'm glad you're here anyway, but I'm glad to see that so far, most people are thinking that there's definitely a way, or maybe you got to figure out if it's right for you. Awesome. Okay, I'm going to switch to screen sharing now. So if you want, you don't need to have these slides open to interact. You can just sit back and watch for just a minute. Or you can follow along with me too on the slides. That is totally fine. Thank you guys for participating in that poll. That really sets a good intention for our learning today. So the possible recipe for max effect feedback that I'm going to explore with you guys today this is kind of that recipe to teach students to track their own progress and reflect. That'll really deepen their learning and understanding and get them kind of involved and interested, to make timely, actionable feedback a priority. And that means a priority means that you put it above other things that are less important. And sometimes teacher work stuff gets just packed into your life somehow. You don't even know where it comes from. And then you're putting other things, keeps getting bumped down, and keeping feedback at the top is going to help us out here. Utilizing peer feedback is going to help a lot. And then grade the important stuff. Don't grade all the things. Decide what's worth grading and what's not worth grading. And then when possible, do that with a student in a conference setting. And we'll talk about ways to build some time into your day as we go. So first things first, we're going to watch this video and take some notes in your digital notebook, your interactive notebook, or you can just take notes on a piece of paper, whatever you're most comfortable with. And after we watch this video, we're kind of going to chat about what we noticed, what we're wondering, and what we liked from this video. I'm going to share it from my screen, and the sound should work. So throw something in the chat if it's not working.
Hi, I'm Skylar Long, a 5th grader here at Science Hall Elementary School, and I'm here to talk about how students track their own growth here at Science Hall. We recently took a benchmark STAR test, and us as students tracked our own grades and looked at our own scores. I like checking my own tests and progress. So the teacher explained to us that she would put answers on the board from our benchmark STAR test. I marked green for all the ones I got right, but I marked red for the ones I didn't get right. Ones that I had the most wrong on, I would look at that subject, and then the teacher would pull me and we would work on the subject that I missed the most questions on. I definitely do think that when the teachers meet with the students, they grow stronger relationships because they're spending more time together, helping both of each other out. And then if you flip the page, we have our score from last year's STAR test to our score from this benchmark STAR test, and then what we wanted to make on our real STAR test, because this was just a benchmark. And then we write down our goals. As you can see, you just have to be accountable for yourself. And this paper is tracking throughout the years of my STAR test from 3rd to 5th. When you don't make progress, you just have to try harder because you're watching yourself not make progress, and because you're grading your own tests, you have to try harder. Make sure you're studying and doing your work to help you be prepared for the STAR test.
Okay, so go ahead now, and first of all, don't get too caught up in the STAR test part. I know that comes with a certain curriculum, but just any test, a unit test or the IRI or even ISAT data, maybe a math unit test. Think about that and go ahead and do some thinking in your notebook around that. I'm going to give about 4 minutes to do some personal thinking before we go to a breakout room and talk about that some more. If you if you go to your digital notebook, this is on page 4. Looks like this. Okay, 1 more minute to begin wrapping up the thinking. You don't have to get to every question. I know these things move really fast. Okay, we're going to move into a breakout room, and I just want you guys to talk about some of those questions in their digital notebook or questions that you have bubbling up, concerns or experiences you've had with that. And it'll be a 5-minute chat. Are there any questions I can answer before we head out? Okay, thanks for participating. Here you go. Hello.
Hey,
Hey.
are you in a session?
Yes, but they're in a breakout room right now and I can't join them.
Okay, I have a teacher who's presenting, and when somebody went in to work on one of the slides, they deleted 2 slides, and I don't know how to get them back.
There's a history that they can go to file and then go to version history, and then they can see the version history. So file version history, and then they can see their version history. You can go back and find the deleted slides that way.
So then, like I could just go back to yesterday's slide.
Yep, and it'll be there.
Okay. I need to make a copy of this.
You can either copy the slide and bring it over, or you can just say restore this version. And you can just bring that whole deck back from yesterday. Okay, I gotta go. Let me text me though. Okay, bye. Welcome back. It was a little extra time because I got that bonus 30 seconds, but hopefully that was enough time to kind of discuss that idea of student tracking. We're still waiting. Never mind, there's just 3 of you back. Here we go. Here we're going. Here we are. Awesome. Hopefully that was some good time that you had to chat, some ideas or experiences, some questions. I would love if there was some brave souls who felt safe enough already to share out a good comment that they heard from their group, or you could even type it into the chat and I'll read it out. Some questions that you had coming up.
We talked about how it was nice to have students being able to identify kind of their own patterns in their learning, but a little bit of pushback. We were like, are they only looking at that STAR data, or are they looking at other points of data as well? Because yes, that is a great indicator, but it doesn't necessarily tell the whole story.
Love that. What a great conversation to have with kids too. We don't want to emphasize more the grade or the number or the data, but how to get them involved. Awesome. Anybody else? I can practice super great wait time because I was a teacher. Okay, so we'll go ahead and we'll move on. I'm going to share my screen again. So here's some just examples. It's so great to get students involved. You can do some goal setting around this. These are some things that I had done in my classroom where we had unit goals as a class to reach 80% proficiency. And you can see that we didn't always make proficiency 80%, but we were trying, we were tracking, the kids cared about it. You have to explicitly teach them how to care and how to set a goal that's appropriate and realistic. And you have to you can't expect students to just know this or care about it. You have to model it and teach it and show them. And then also it needs to be ongoing self-assessments of masteries. For example, every week at the end of your math learning for the week, give them a chance to say, do you feel like you've mastered this skill? Why or why not? Are you close? And I have this picture of kind of a more K3 appropriate, yes, I can do this, or I'm working on it and I'm really, really good. Ask them what questions they have, give them some opportunity. And then also to get down to that super nitty gritty individualized student assessment. I love this bottom picture where I had a student tracking, the red is a pre-test score and the green is that post-test score. So he was tracking, how did he do before the learning happened? And then the green shows where did he get to? And that really changed our conversation away from what's my grade? And it kind of turned into, look how much I grew. And that was definitely where I wanted our culture to be moving. So you can do this through exit tickets. You could allow sketch notes, a Google form. You could do a high-low of every day or every week. Those are just some ideas to get percolating in the back of your mind. Basically, the biggest goal for assessments is to demystify and simplify. Those are kind of my favorite keywords for assessment. We want students to know what they're being asked to do, what the expectation is, and then to make it simple for them. And my favorite quote that I had gathered for this workshop is, if we grade practice, then we leave students no safe place to fail. I'm a like super big advocate of the growth mindset and using that language in the classroom. And if we teach a lesson for the first time ever, and then we have students do a worksheet on it and we grade that, we didn't give that student a safe place to practice or learn or fail and make a mistake where it was okay, because we instantly gave a grade to that. So what I'm saying is really consider what you're grading. Is this a practice activity that it was their first exposure? Or is it something where they're supposed to be showing the mastery? Using whiteboards in the classroom or things like that is a great way to give them practice without the grade, because it's not a tangible piece of paper. I try to avoid the paper as much as possible, because then I'm not as tempted to let it pile up on my desk and put a grade on it. But we have to allow students to earn our trust so that they will practice in a safe way. And then one of my tips that I would really encourage you guys to try is to give them the answer key. Give students the answer key, let them grade that work themselves. And I know there's some pushback around accountability and responsibility, but if you can build a culture around some trustworthy honesty and integrity, and then you can show them that you're giving them the opportunity to learn. Ask them to make a reflection. What did you get it all right? How do you know? Why do you think you got it all right? What work did you put in? Or ask them, which questions did you get wrong? Can you see how to get the right answer after having the answer in front of you? And how did you get there? And then always, always, always allow for revision, because that builds that safe community of learning so that they're not interested in getting it right the first time. If they know that you will accept it later, that's building that feedback environment versus that grade environment. You don't want them to think that you care about the grade. You want them to know that you care about their growth, and that requires revision and trying again and reflecting on why they got it wrong or right. Hope that doesn't move me forward. So one way to do this, one possibility for you guys to consider, this research comes from Catlin Tucker, who is a blended model expert. And I included some links to her work here, and I'll reference her a few times, but she does station rotations. And what she does is she'll divide her classes virtually or face-to-face into different groups. And while she's working with a group explicitly on things that they need and based off of work that they've done, there's another group who has an activity they're working on, and then they immediately get to see the answer sheet so that they can reflect on what they got right or what they got wrong. They are required to write a reflection or even just a sticky note of, oh, I got these all right. I feel proud of my learning, or I missed this problem and this problem, but I think I figured out why I missed it. And I'm going to try, I'm going to have another opportunity to try this again tomorrow. And then another learning activity, and you can have as many stations as you want or don't want, but that's one way to build into your day where you're still getting to teach kiddos explicitly in front of them with what they need, but you're also allowing them to do some grading for you, because they're actually going to learn a lot if you can build up that culture in that way. And I know that is scary, and it's letting go of control, and there might be bumps in the road to get students to take it seriously the right way, but it's something that when you try and you care, it can really come, and it can be awesome. It worked in my classrooms with 3rd and 4th graders, and I've seen it in classrooms that I coach in. So there's a spot in your digital notebook. Let me find it so I can show you where you can record some thinking. I've done a lot of chatting for a minute. So the student grading model, I'm going to give you a few minutes to consider these questions. How does the student grading model honor a student's learning and growth? What challenges and concerns need to be considered? How does the student grading model honor you as an educator and human? And what challenges and concerns need to be considered? So go ahead and do some reflecting around those questions. I'll zoom in on these in case you're having trouble accessing something. And you can just jot this down wherever you are. Also, feel free to throw it into the chat for us if you come up with something that you'd like to share. I'd love to open this up. Is there anyone willing to share one way that it either honors a student or themselves, or a way that it is challenging them right now? I'll read from the chat. McKenna says they can buy into the idea that growth matters more than grades. We track GPA. My school and the kids can become obsessed and constantly ask, how many points is this worth? Yes.
And if I'm like, oh, it's not graded, it's just a practice assignment, then that buy-in isn't there. They're like, oh, I'm not going to do this. I don't care if it's not going to affect the grade.
And that becomes one of the challenges that this can bring. It's a culture thing. That's kind of the crux of it all, how to get them to care, because I know, especially in high school, like GPA is a big, big deal. Unfortunately. Another comment, I think it would help build accountability in their learning and let them know they are trusted with their learning. That goes a long way. When students believe you, because I think that sometimes they don't really believe that you care about their growth. They think you believe in the grades. And when they finally buy in that you don't, it can be a big game changer. My high school son was walking by as student grading was being taught and commented that would never work with the kids from our school. Oh man, that hurts my heart. Kids K-12, kids love to feel empowered. They love to feel like you think that they can do it. And when it becomes like, hey, it's something that you can trust them with, it can be powerful. But there might be bumps along the way to get there if you're going from never doing that before, you know. I, for instance, was that student in school that really cared about showing my teacher how smart I was. So I could have been that student tempted to just make sure that I was always having perfect answers instead of really caring about my learning. Somewhere along the way that changed. I'm so grateful. Okay, I'm going to bump us down to my favorite part now. So some of you, if you're ICN friends already, you've probably seen Austin's butterfly before, but if you haven't, it's a great one. I show this to my kids in class every year. We talk about it. If you're new and you've never seen it, I'm so excited for you to join with this awesome video. Your job is just to watch and listen and record notes in the chat. You can throw them out if you want, or just on a blank piece of paper. This is going to introduce in feedback. Thumbs up if you can hear.
What do you guys say to teachers if they're not getting high quality work? Could they learn something from this, and what would you say to them that they could do differently in their classrooms? This is a story called Austin's Butterfly, and it's a true story about a first grade boy, and his name is Austin, and he goes to school, or used to go to school, in a town called Boise, Idaho. And in his class in Boise, Idaho, they were studying butterflies, and he had to do a project. His job in first grade was to draw a butterfly, and this is the butterfly that he picked. Austin had to use this photograph as his model, and he had to draw an accurate scientific drawing of this butterfly. This is called a tiger swallowtail.
I knew it!
Can you tell, Toby, why it's called tiger?
Because it kind of have the stripes of the tiger right there.
Good. So here was Austin's job. He was supposed to do a scientific drawing of that butterfly. But remember, Austin was only in first grade. And you know what he did? He forgot to look like a scientist carefully. He got his paper and he just started to draw the image of a butterfly that he had in his head. And he wasn't looking like a scientist, and so this is what he drew.
Whoa.
It's not bad, and it is a butterfly, but does it look exactly like this?
No.
No, it doesn't yet. It doesn't look exactly like this yet. Luckily, this wasn't a regular school where Austin went. It was an expeditionary learning school, just like Presumpscot School. And so they didn't look at this and say, good, Austin, you're done. They said, Austin, good start. Now we can start giving you critique so you can do a second draft and make it better, and a third draft and make it better, and you can make it much, much closer to this. And he was ready to go. All of the first graders in his critique group sat on the floor like you guys are, and they decided to split their advice into two kinds. First, just the shape of the wings. And then when the shape was right, they'd give him advice about the pattern inside the wings. Alia, what would you say?
You can make it much pointier.
Good. These wings could be much pointier. Who else would add something? Atak, what would you say?
How about the angle? Because, not to be mean about
Yes.
the angle, it's just not exact, so...
Okay, so show me. Come on up here, Atak. Show me what you would ask him to do slightly differently.
like to make it a little longer,
Longer where? Draw where you would do it.
right there.
Okay, so pull this out longer.
Yeah.
That's very specific, Atak. Thank you. Jamila, what would you say?
It's like triangle?
Good. Jamila, I love that. So you're saying more like a triangle shape. And I agree. Well, you know what? Those first graders came up with most of those same ideas. And you know what Austin said? He said, okay, I'll go try. And he went back to his seat and he drew this.
Wow.
Does this look more like a triangle?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did he go out further, like Atak was suggesting?
Yes.
Did he add some jaggedness here,
Yes.
like Cindy? Did he get rid of that bottom thing?
Yes.
So he did listen to his friends, and he made it better. It's not perfect. Toby, what would you say?
I'd say don't put those little tail things so pointed in. I'd say put them more pointed down.
Good. Okay, and Ethan, what would you say?
I think you should make the wings like this, not like just like
Okay, he listened to his friends, and they said, this is really a lot better, Austin. That second draft really is better.
Yeah, maybe you can make a third one.
Good, maybe he could make a third draft. And so he did this draft.
That's his third draft.
That's his third draft, Hadley. That's just right. Elijah, what do you notice there?
Well, one wing's more pointed than the other, and that side is a little bit higher than the others.
Good. Coburn?
Right here, it doesn't have the inside thing still.
Ah, okay. Needs a little bit more of that notch. So, do you think maybe he should do a fourth draft?
Yeah.
Well, that's just what he said. He said, shoot, okay, I got round again. I'll go back and do a fourth draft.
Listen.
He listened. Does it look more even like Elijah was suggesting?
Yes.
Yeah, and does it look like it's coming out a little sharper, like Cindy was suggesting? And like Atak was saying, it's a little, the angle looks a little better. So now Austin was feeling really good. He said, am I ready to add some pattern? And they said, okay, why don't you try adding some of the pattern? And he did.
He's good at it. He is so good.
And then they said, Austin, you're ready for color.
Really?
Let's look at his last draft. And what do you think? Did it come out really good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually looks
Let me show you where he started, just to give you a quick reminder. And then, what do you think about how much progress he made? And Tak, what would you say about his progress?
He made, like, a lot of progress. He persevered doing it. His friends were honest with him.
What was it about the kinds of advice that they gave that allowed him to get better each time? Hassan?
Well, they told him what was wrong about it.
Did they say it's just wrong, or were they More specific than that.
They were more specific, but they weren't mean about it.
Great.
He
Hadley.
made 6 drafts.
And so is that something that other kids should learn from? What should we learn from that?
We can make other drafts if it's not right.
Good. So if it's not right, you can keep doing more drafts to make it better.
You just don't use things in your head. You want to use a sharp eye.
Good. He used the eyes of a scientist. Great.
Okay, that was awesome. So hopefully you have some notes that you're holding in your mind, or you throw them into the chat if you need to. We're going to watch another video now that's also a teacher giving some constructive feedback based around specific criteria. Same thing in the chat. You can record what you notice or questions that are coming up about this video.
I know you said in this book, the next time you write it, instead of saying in this book, in Ringer by Jerry Spinelli, okay, and give us a little bit more details there. But other than that, I really loved your intro, okay? You had a great intro, kind of talking about beans, you got my attention. All right, nice job with that. All right, Mr. Spencer?
Where would I fall, though?
All right, well, right now, I see you falling. I say mostly, you're probably like, you're right in between these two. I'd say you're right around the 3.3. Okay, once again, we build up, we give a little bit more details, okay? We're pushing you more towards that category. All right, great job, Spencer. Go ahead, buddy.
Right.
Read it with confidence, okay?
Palmer LaRue from Ringer by Jerry Spinelli obviously trusts Dorothy because he'd listened to her advice. You wouldn't listen to a stranger's advice, would you? It is clear to me that Palmer trusts Dorothy when he is listening to her saying, "Why don't you skip 10 and just go to 11?" Also, Palmer told Dorothy a big secret that he hasn't told anyone, not even his parents, that he has a pigeon as a pet. Even named it Nipper. I know how it feels to trust someone with a big secret, but I never had to trust someone with a secret about a pigeon. I wish I could have a trustworthy friend that I can tell millions of secrets to.
Okay, Spencer, awesome conclusion there, okay? Great intro and conclusion, actually. I really like both of those, okay? And right now, just looking at our rubric here from New York State, all right, you were clear, you were purposeful, okay? You definitely linked a lot of things. I loved your text-to-self connection. What did you say? I wouldn't just trust anybody? Can you read me that sentence one more time, actually?
The text to self?
Yeah, you said I wouldn't just trust anybody.
No, I think you...
What did you say there?
I know how it feels to trust someone with a big secret, but I never had to trust someone with a secret about a pigeon.
Okay, what a text-to-self connection there. Okay, that's a great job. Spencer, once again, bud, you are getting your way towards that 4 category.
Oops. Okay, awesome. Any initial thoughts that anyone wants to throw out with us?
There's definitely a good community there because it's not just a one-on-one conference right there. There were other kids sitting at the table. So this must have to be common practice. Otherwise, the kids might be really embarrassed if they were giving each other feedback in front of each other.
Definitely. Thanks. I noticed that station rotation thing was going on too, where there was some kids were writing, some kids were reading, and that gave the teacher some really easy connection with a small group. Anything challenging coming forward?
I really like all of these ideas. I just don't know how to put them in my day. Like, how do we have time to do this in addition to everything else that needs to be taught?
Thank you. I knew that question was out there somewhere. Not just you, there's definitely more people. That was my big question too before I wanted to take some of this forward. It becomes a matter of thinking about your day and prioritizing what's the most important things that you need to get to kids and how can you deliver them. For example, just one suggestion that worked for me in a 3rd grade classroom, when I would start my math block, I would do a 10-minute max, usually like 5, 6, or 7 minutes, introducing the skill for the day as a whole group. But then we would immediately break out into the stations where some kids could just take that 5 minutes that I shared and they could roll with it. And then I basically taught the lesson 3 or 4 times in a small group setting. And I just taught them the lesson with 4 or 5 kids, and then they went and practiced on their own. And I wasn't a part of that, but they were checking their work with their peers, or they were using the answer key. And then we would conference about it in another time of the day. And basically, you can choose what things you want to teach whole group and what things you want to just bring small kids in. I think I've seen this work at a high school level too, where you can record videos of teaching, especially this year, we might all be really good at that, and have them watch that in a station. And then when they get to you, they're doing the work and the practice with you there. There's definitely different models and things. You'd have to find what works for you, but I cut out everything that I had to do. I built community, I built trust. We did conferencing all day long. And that was basically what I was doing. Where are you on this rubric? Why do you think you're there? And that's how I would grade their summative projects. I never took them home and graded. I would say, hey, what do you think you earned here based on the rubric? Why? What's your reasoning? Okay, this is where I think you might be. And what do you think is the fair grade? Because then it wasn't just me giving a grade. It was them telling me what grade they wanted and why. And if they said, well, I'm not really happy with that, can I go fix it? Definitely go fix it, bring it back. And I spent every chance I could conferencing times while they were doing silent sustained reading. Sign up on the board, I'll conference with you. While that group is doing that art project, if you want to come conference with me, sure, I'll conference. And it's different for everybody, but there's things out there you can explore different models. Thanks for asking that question. Okay, let's move on, because one way to eliminate grading from our life in a positive way, still giving feedback, is to let the kiddos do a lot of it for us. So you're going to want to jump back into the slides yourself. I'll drop it into the chat again. If you want to click on the link, it'll just take you there. And we're on slide 17. If you want to choose one of those columns to put your name under, that's to say that that's the section you want to read. We're going to do a little jigsaw here. So the link is under this peer feedback jigsaw. You can click on the link, but I don't want you to have to read the whole thing. I want you just to choose which section you want to read. You can choose observations, not evaluations, be kind, specific, helpful, or the heart and brain and a well-oiled machine. And this is a resource called Peer Feedback Without the Sting. So this is a document that would be important if you were wanting to implement more peer feedback. I got to the point where I just let my kiddos help each other as much as I could. I would pop in and give the feedback, but I really wasn't giving them scores until we got to the mastery project or the summative project. So once you've kind of put your name in there, and if you are having trouble adding into the slide itself, you can throw your name in the chat and I'll write it in for you. I'm going to give you 4 minutes to open up that link and read your section only. The headers will divide it. And after you've read it for 4 minutes on your own, I'll throw you into random breakout groups where you'll be able to just share the most important pieces from what you read. And hopefully there's someone from each of the groups in the random breakout groups. It looks like there's a good amount. Is there anyone struggling getting their name on that slide? I can help you out. Just unmute and tell me what your name is. Okay, so go ahead, click on that link. I'll also put the link in the chat. So if you're wanting to just click on this, make sure you don't read the whole thing. You have 4 minutes. We'll start that now. Okay, 1 minute warning to wrap up your reading the best you can. There will be some more time in the breakout room. Okay, so I'm going to send you out to breakout rooms. Your role is to share the most important information from your section of what you just read. And hopefully fate will happen and there will be somebody that read each section of the text. If not, just talk about what what you learned, and you can skim it if you want. It'll be set up for 8 minutes. Any questions that I can answer? All right, here you go. Hi, friend. Did you get bumped out of a room? Hi, friend. Did you get bumped out? We're coming back in 4 seconds, sir. You're good. You're muted. I can't hear.
Yes, I did get bumped out and no worries.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hopefully there was enough good time for conversation there.
There was.
Hi, friends. We're just waiting for everybody to come back. Hopefully there was some good conversation there and some ideas of ways you could implement that peer feedback into your life to take some of the load off of you and to allow students to carry the work forward. Thank you so much for being here with your great thinking and challenges and everything. We're going to do our reflection piece now. I will share my screen for just a second and then you can see where we're at. If you have the slides open, I'm going to be on slide 19. And there is a link, the Jamboard link. What I want you to consider is that this is called a rose, thorn, bud strategy. So the rose, the pink stickies in the Jamboard will represent something that you're proud of in your work relating to feedback or grading practices. What successes do you have in your teacher work-life balance? The yellow represents the thorn. What is a current challenge about grading or giving feedback in your work? What areas are you working on? And the bud is representing what potential is there for grading practices or feedback in your classroom? What new ideas are you considering after today and sharing and collaborating with other people? So you can go ahead and click on that link. That'll take you to the Jamboard. And if you're not familiar with Jamboard, you can click over here on the side to grab a sticky note and you can change the color of it and type in whatever you're wanting for each of the sections. And I would love for you to take some time to consider a rose, a thorn, and a rosebud from today's learning. So go ahead and do that. If you have questions, throw them in the chat or shout out to me. Awesome. I see some of you are moving them around. You don't have to worry about the color so much if that's an extra step. You can just get some thinking and kind of place it around the pictures. I'll just read out a few as they come in. I've had a lot of success with keeping grading at school and being up to date with grades this year. That's awesome success, especially this year. Wow, good for you. I have gotten much better at putting it away when I get home. Definite celebrations there. Somebody, they're challenged or they're working on implementing peer feedback has been difficult online. We can't just trade papers and grade math problems for sure. That's definitely a challenge. Another challenge, wrapping my head around how to fit teaching kids to provide the brain feedback. I love it. Celebration, a rose. I have been able to separate school from life. I keep it in the classroom. Good for you. I'm so proud to hear that. Somebody, it just got covered up, but it looks like somebody dedicates one night a week to stay at school and the rest they just go home. That's a great practical idea. Somebody is thinking more about formative versus summative assessments and what is important. The important things will be the things I focus more on moving forward, hopefully. Yay, that is so inspiring. Thank you. Someone else is really liking the conferencing idea. Go for it. That's it. Find the way that it fits for you and your needs, but it's life-changing. Using the data to give students ownership and reflection. Another potential. Love it. Someone has began using data folders, but now it's taking it to another level. That's great. Someone finds a thorn implementing peer reflection without them being mean. Definitely something that takes some work and consideration during student and peer feedback. Oh, someone says it's hard to write meaningful feedback, so conferencing seems like a good plan. Definitely. Have the rubric with you, conference in person, it builds trust, it builds relationship, it really gives you a look into their brain. Oh, someone says they're gonna ask kids to do a graph after mastery tests. Awesome. This has been the best ever. This is definitely when the conference came forward to be about something you're passionate about, this is definitely something I'm passionate about, to bring forward to kids what really is important, what really matters, and to focus less on grades in whatever ways are appropriate for wherever we are. So thank you for considering that. The last thing that I'm going to share, I definitely stole this from Catlin Tucker. I will share my screen again. She is kind of one of my favorite experts in this area, but she talks about the work-life balance being, you know, we're all balancing balls in the air, we're all juggling, and especially this year. And she talks about how certain balls are rubber and they bounce back, and certain balls are glass, and if they fall, they're going to shatter. And so to keep in mind that our work is almost always a rubber ball, we don't want to drop that ball, but if we do, more than likely it's going to bounce back and we're going to be okay. But if we drop some of our other balls, like our family, that ball is glass and it's going to shatter. It's going to be a lot more hurtful in our lives. And so I had to start thinking of it that way so that I could kind of move away from taking too much time or effort into my kiddos, but I didn't want to lose the quality. And that's where the really important feedback started coming big into my life, and why I started researching ways to give kids better feedback in ways that didn't have to just be me. And I've loved the collaborative culture that comes into the classroom when we do that. Thank you so much, guys. You were awesome. And hopefully those breakout rooms had tons of participation. It hurts me not to be in there with you guys. It hurt because I don't get to hear the conversations and they're not recorded. So I'll trust that you guys carried that load for me. And I hope that you have a great last session. If you guys are here for the next session with the growth with the IRI, feel free. I'm just gonna shut off my camera and go take a break, and then I'll be back. Hopefully the good vibe music will keep you happy. Go take a break if you need one.